Hi everyone, it's Lacey again. So last night I posted my first video. It was a very long one. I actually had to end up splitting it up into multiple parts because it was too long for me to post on my channel because my channel is not verified. Which all it takes is sending a code to my phone number, which right now I don't have one. I still have to pay off the bill, and I really can't right now because of course I gotta save my money for moving. But once I get that done, I can post longer videos. So I gotta keep this video 15 minutes or shorter. So in order to be able to fully post it. So anyways, I posted the 5-part video last night. Uh, Basically describing my most recent experiences with Jehovah's Witnesses, but I unlisted them because I did send it to a couple of my friends to review, and I'm not going to have them publicly displayed now because I just don't think it's appropriate given the time I am right now, and I still have yet to figure out how to navigate myself out of this situation. But anyways, it's not. This isn't a continuation of that video. It's basically and I think you can. And so I don't think you have to watch that video in order to understand what I'm about to explain here. It's just one of those things that, upon further reflection, I kind of realized a couple of things of what may have led me down that path again, and why I think. If you guys are in, whatever religion was harmful to you at one point in life, if you belong to Facebook groups, why you really shouldn't stay in them is when you're ready to move on, is, and everything and stuff like that. So when I left, essentially I started looking for connection and relatability. So naturally I was looking for support groups to help me kind of make sense of what I went through, and basically comparing experiences. Obviously, a lot of other ex-members have experienced a lot worse than I have and everything, and what's really sad is a lot of ex-members, particularly if they're women, have dealt with a lot of sexual abuse, if not as children, as women, as full-on adult women. I have friends who have been assaulted as both children and adults by members in them, and this is not to say anything against the religion itself, because it's because again, I don't want to be labeled an apostate, because it's not. I don't think it's exclusive to just Jehovah's Witnesses. I think it could very well happen in Mormonism and just any other kind of a culty type of religious environment and everything that controls your minds to such a degree where if someone would complain about that you would have to shun them or ignore them. It's one of those things where it's you can't slot Jehovah's Witnesses into a category of its own when it comes to that, because you can get stuff like that anywheres. But regardless, I do have friends that I'm not particularly close to. I just have them on Facebook, and I really don't know why, because I really don't speak to them. And I think maybe after this video, I might consider just kind of removing the people that I've met in these ex-member support groups. And this just doesn't apply to if you're a Jehovah's Witness or an ex-Jehovah's Witness, but even if you're ex-Mormon or ex Seventh-day Adventist or ex Scientology, or just everybody knows what the harmful ones are, right? So if you belong to any of that and you have sought out support groups upon leaving, I think when you're ready to move on is you probably should leave those groups. And I think maybe it's And if you're in a situation right now where you have just recently been kicked out or left even on your own accord, I mean, go ahead, join those groups, but I do not recommend, unless you have a really close relationship with someone you met on there, I do not recommend having them as friends on social media, and here's why. Because what happens is, because not everybody can get over this so easily, but for me, I was very surprised as to how much, even though I was really kind of insanely bitter after I had left, it was very surprising as to, over time, as I kind of lived my own life, just how well I have healed from it and how well I have moved on. At least that's what it appeared to be, internally. After a couple of years, I mean, there once was a time that I wanted to get on YouTube and kind of kind of do a smear campaign, and it's just and I really don't think that's healthy either. I mean, I'm not saying don't get on and tell your own story, but especially those of you who are ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, you might have heard of a group called the Vassapara State Army, or VAA for short. And at first I was kind of all for that, but then upon introspection, and it's not just because I think that groups like this can be equally as harmful, because I mean sometimes they're not, sometimes they have good intentions, but I think specifically and I think specifically with the Vassapara State Army is that I think they've gone through many power shifts. I think the guy who originally formed this group, I think is no longer the head of it. I think or whatever has happened, it has gone from something completely let's fight the powers that are destroying the lives of our friends and family members, to it's kind of turned into its own cult following, and it's almost gotten to be almost as bad as the religious groups that we left. And that basically, and I mean, don't hate me for this, but I kind of think that, the Jehovah's Witnesses that are still in kind of has a point against apostates, especially when they're behaving this way. Because, I mean, the Vassapara State Army now has their own merch, and it's and that's how you know that when groups like this become unhealthy and, and kind of culty in their own sense, right? But anyways, I'm about 8 minutes in, so I got about another 7 minutes to speak, and then if I have to go over, then I'll start another video. But I think for me, where I used to want to start doing videos and everything, I was kind of delayed doing that for a couple of reasons. One of which was that I was told that, and this may or may not be true, but my mom told me at the time that my sister had said it was just me just wanting to get attention, and that kind of put me off of it. But then another reason was that I wanted to make sure that I had content and receipts and everything like that. So while I was waiting to do that, over time, I kind of lost interest in the whole thing, and I just really kind of became more interested in just kind of moving on with my own life and everything. And I think that's and I think when you get to that point, I think and it's going to be different for everybody. I mean, even if you were getting to that point now where you're ready to move on, I'm not saying leave the groups immediately, but I think it's once you're 100% sure that you don't want that, one, you want to move on, and two, you don't want to fight the perceived enemy, which are these religious organizations. I think that's probably when you should leave these groups, because and especially if you haven't added many of them as friends and everything, and so that's when you want to leave. And if you are in a situation where you actually have added a lot of these members as friends, I'm not saying to delete them, but what I'm saying is just be careful, especially like you need to be mindful of where your thoughts are going, because if at some point in the future, like, you're kind of thinking about going back, even if it's for the intent of just reconnecting with friends and family, you really need to wonder where that's coming from. And for a lot of people that belong to these groups and are friends with other members from these groups, it's always going to be a topic of conversation, even though it's an undertone. Like, for an example, there would be like, for things that we're not allowed to do, like, say, like, donate blood because of the whole, like, blood issue, and vote and everything, because they're supposed to be politically neutral. It's one of those things where it's like, like, it's kind of like an inside joke, which is not healthy for those who truly want to move on, because there's always an undertone of like, yeah, like, we know what that's all about, right? So, going back to what I posted last night, I feel that it's a lot of, even though not a lot of people that I'm friends with on Facebook that I know from these ex-member groups are focusing on that. Like, I have one guy who completely, like, he's kind of making like a YouTube name for himself, and he reviews like heavy metal music, because that's what he's into. That's his niche and everything. And he interviews a lot of up and coming, like, heavy metal bands and everything. That's not something I'm personally into, but I have watched a couple of his videos and a couple of his reaction videos to the new music and everything. But it's also like, even if they're not actively talking about their past as a next member of whatever religious organization they used to belong to, it's still, every time you look at them, you know how you know them from. And if this is something, and only you can figure this out, and you really have to sit with yourself and kind of think, like, is it a good thing for me to always be reminded of this? And for me, because I have always kind of wanted to, at some point, go back, basically just based on, like, kind of trying to revive the connections I had. It's not healthy, and I think that's why I think in most cases, if you're in my situation, you should probably remove, like, all those friends, unless there's like a couple that you're really close to, and especially if those friends are people that you discuss, like, non-religious, like, issues with, right? I'm coming on the 13-minute mark, so I might have to split this into a couple of videos. Anyways, and what really became a huge problem for me is when I moved into the city, because now I have independent access to get to the Kingdom Halls, through bus or whatever. I'm actually, like, and last night I explained that, I'm moving, and and the place that I'm moving to is actually really, really close to the congregation I would have been assigned to. And and like, another thing also is that when I moved into the city, I always kind of felt like, okay, well, I do know that if I wanted to go to an assembly, which is often held at a particular trade and convention center within my city, I can go. And that's what happened. We recently had an assembly, and I did go. And one of those, that's my phone is going off. I'm going to stop the video here and just turn my alarm off on my phone, and then I'm going to, like, make another, like, part 2 of this video. So this is part 1 of this video, and I will continue in part 2.